And we'd like to thank everybody for coming to the second part of this branding webinar. We saw some returning faces, we see some new folks, so we'll go through the intro just one more time to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So for some general housekeeping, as I said, this will be recorded and we'd like you to mute yourselves when you're not speaking. So please just click the little microphone in the left-hand corner. Make sure that when you are not the one speaking, you are silent. Apart from that, please throw your questions into the chat. We'll get to them towards the end, or whenever Jodi has a second to answer them. Simeon and I will make sure that you get your questions answered. Likewise, after this webinar, we'll send you an email with all the information that you'll gain from this, as well as some extra resources. So I'll pass it off to my colleague, Simeon Geigel.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Simeon Geigel with the CVOEO Micro Business Development Program out of Burlington. Just want to give you a quick introduction to those who may not be familiar with our program. Micro Business is a statewide program that works with low to moderate income Vermonters to help them start or expand a business. There's no fee for our services, but we do have some eligibility guidelines that we need to run by people first to confirm if they are eligible. Just a couple of quick questions. Please feel free to reach out to myself, my coworker, John Gergley, or Pacific Sangayuva if you're interested in our services, and we'd be happy to get you going. I mentioned that micro business is a statewide program. There's 5 micro businesses around the state that provide coverage to the entire state. So each micro business falls under a community action agency. In our region, we fall under CVOEO, Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity. If you live in another part of the state that does not include Addison, Chittenden, Franklin, or Grand Isle, which is the areas we cover, you'll note on the slide here Brock, Capstone, NECA, and SEVCA, and the specific counties that they cover, and the contact folks for that area. And this slide will be emailed to everyone. So if you do live in another part of the state, or even in ours, and want to reach out, you'll have the ability to do so. I always like to make people aware of the other business support services that cover our area. There's some really wonderful programs out there that provide one-on-one as well as classes. And so I always encourage people to tap into the strengths of the other business development providers. So in our area, we have CEDO, Community Economic Development Office, Center for Women in Enterprise, Mercy Connections, which houses the Women's Small Business Program, the Vermont Small Business Development Center, SBDC, the Small Business Administration, which isn't specific to the state of Vermont, covers the country, but you can see the website there. And finally, we have Champlain Valley SCORE and the Vermont Economic Development, Vermont Economic Development Authority, the CNP grant, which is a link there that you can connect with to learn more about that grant opportunity. I do encourage you folks to confirm if the funds are still available before applying, so you save yourself the time. And so I'd like to welcome back Jodi Lawaich, the Chief Marketing Officer at Rural Solutions. I'm thrilled that she's back for day 2. I know that folks got a lot of information in the last session, and that people are eager to kind of learn how to apply those things that they learned and take some very practical steps. And I know that Jodi always does such a wonderful job at covering this topic. And speaking of that, she has also done some other classes for us in the past, and you can check out her past classes as well as others that we have previously covered on the cvoeo.org website, as well as see a list of upcoming classes. So sorry for that little detour, Jodi, but I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you back. I'm glad I didn't fry people's brains last week. I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but just to sort of recap, this is part 2 of the branding class. Last week, we did a super duper dive into the brand story aspect of branding, which is just as important as logo, determining colors. It really is that foundational beginning piece. We used a book that I love called Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall. I'm going to put that into the chat right now. Because what Ms. Hall has done with this book is she has broken the branding story down into 4 different pieces. So that's what we went through. That's what the branding work handout was. So I'm going to share my screen. And if you're new, if you weren't with us with last week, I mean, just have the handout open. For those of you who did come back from last week, have your information in front of you, because we do have questions that you all were answering for each of the stories, that kind of thing. So I'll leave that open a little bit. I am going to see if I can, I don't know if it's going to let me share multiples. Okay. I'm going to shrink this. Okay, so welcome to this brand story class part 2. You kind of already went through who I am. So what we're jumping into today is taking all the information that we dug out last week and how to practically apply it to your marketing, specifically your digital marketing, which encompasses your website, email marketing, and your social media. So there's 4 really key reasons why it's important to create content for your business. First, it establishes your brand. And I would add to that when you're establishing your brand, it's about creating trust. I think what a lot of people miss, and I'm talking about even huge corporations, what people tend to miss in digital marketing is that you are starting a relationship with users. And in a way, digital marketing is sort of that additional sales person who's making that initial contact and trying to determine your needs and those things. So while it's not a one-to-one person conversation, it is a conversation with your users. And that's why, excuse me, when you're doing the brand story work, it's so important to remember that your customer is your hero. If you think about any salesperson you've worked with that you felt like, they quote unquote got you, that's because they established a relationship. They weren't just out to sell something. So you're establishing your brand by creating content, which means you're also creating trust. It attracts engagement, obviously. I mean, you have to be there to interact with people. Third, it can create and does create brand loyalists, meaning that there are people who will follow your accounts, will go to your website simply because what you've put out there has really resonated with them. And while they may not be ready to buy, sign up for a class, whatever it is that you're offering, they will act as people who will say, oh, hey, you're looking for XYZ, check out these people. And we know from statistics that it's somewhere over 60% that friends buy based on what other people recommend. So creating brand loyalists is really essentially creating like a brand ambassador for your business. And then lastly, it keeps you in the public eye. I mean, it keeps you there. If people can't see you, if they can't find you, they don't know that you're there. And that's pretty important. So what we're going to talk about today, first, we're going to go into planning. planning is the key to content success. And I know that that's a really unsexy. The creativity comes in the planning. I think that's what we're always super attracted to, obviously, is the creative end, but it starts with planning. So we're actually going to look at a content calendar that I've pulled up to go through. Landing on a content calendar, and it doesn't have to be super complicated, is really going to make your life so much easier. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. It's kind of like, you know, if you've gone grocery shopping with a list, it's really effective. When you go grocery shopping without a list, not only is your bill like $50 higher, you find that you've bought a bunch of stuff you don't need. And I don't know about you, but if I don't have the list, I always forget something that I actually did need. So that's why planning is so important. Then we're going to move into where to focus placing your content, meaning like literally what platforms you need to be on, where physically this needs to live digitally, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but we need to look at that, because again, I think that can be tough for business owners to decipher where they need to be. There's a lot thrown at business owners. So we're going to talk about the basics, that where you absolutely need to be. And third, how to get it there. You know, using a scheduling platform, how do you get this stuff online? Because it's not second nature for a lot of people. Okay. So as I mentioned, the key to all of this, the key to getting all of this wonderful information that you worked on last week, digging it out, getting out there, it's all about planning. So how to plan, and you know, this may sound really pedantic, but planning for marketing, planning for digital.
Hey, Jodi, sorry to interrupt. We're not seeing the presentation.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Sorry about that. I meant to catch that earlier, but I didn't realize.
Okay, hang on. Let me stop sharing. I apologize. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Here. So again, this is what we're covering today, the planning, where to focus placing your content, and how to get it online. And let me see, I can expand this now. Hold on. Okay. Can you guys see that? Is that too small?
I think it looks good on my end.
Okay. If anybody needs me to make it bigger, I will. Okay. So the key to all is planning. So in talking about how to plan, to me, there's 4 stages. You're brainstorming themes and ideas. And obviously that's the fun part. Then you kind of need like that. And when you're brainstorming, that's the stuff that's sort of in the air. It's, you know, floating around like butterflies. It's super fun. But you need to ground those things. So that's where you need to go into creating a content calendar. You essentially give those ideas legs and you land them and you plan them out, which honestly can also be fun. I think people get to the, you know, they love brainstorming, and then it's like when it goes into the practical work, people can get really turned off. The creating the content calendar is really, to me, the second piece of the creativity. So, and we're going to go through each of these pieces. So you land on your content calendar. The third piece is finding good images. Everything these days needs to have an image. You can't even post on Instagram without an image. Facebook and LinkedIn, you can still do it. Nobody at this point really reads copy without an image, except for maybe Twitter. I mean, Twitter is designed just for very short snippets. I'll be honest, not a huge fan of Twitter. We can get into that later, but overall, you need images for pretty much anything you're going to produce marketing wise for your company. And then lastly, you want to know ahead of time which scheduling platform works for you. There are free ones out there. There are ones that have, a pretty nominal fee. There are ones that can be quite expensive. There are ones that are more intuitive than others. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's definitely something you want to identify before you start this process. All right, so brainstorming. There is no one way to brainstorm. I personally love brainstorming with people, and they don't even necessarily have to be a part of your business. It could be a friend. It could just be a colleague whose insight you welcome. But, if you're just kind of sitting there, or this happens to me a lot too, where an idea will sort of seemingly come out of nowhere, grab what I like to do especially when I'm working on a client's stuff, is either grab a piece of paper and a pen or open a Word doc. And I do like to do it old school with a pen and paper a lot of times. And there is actually a connection between handwriting and like your brain working. So there is actually something to that. And then once you kind of figure out the best way to let the ideas flow from like your brain through your fingers, you want to think about themes that pertain to your business. These can be seasonal, they can be daily, they can be weekly, they can be monthly. Realtors certainly have a seasonal process, but somebody who's an artist will likely have more of a weekly or a monthly process. So think about themes, and they don't even necessarily just have to fall into these 4 categories that I put here, but you want to almost think about patterns, themes. It could be our seasons appear, since we typically experience 4. Anything that really helps you get into the flow of how your business runs. We all have ebbs and flows, so it's thinking about that. Another great way to get the brainstorming going is to review recent testimonials that you have, including great feedback you've gotten from customer or clients. That could be written feedback, that could be just conversational feedback. It could be somebody who has shown up to bought your product because their friend said, blank, blank, blank. And I would write those down. If they're testimonials, you cut and paste them if you're in a Word doc, or you just make note of them. But what people are saying, and this is why testimonials are so important to capture, is that essentially what testimonials are is saying that this company does a great way of solving X pain point. So it's in there, it's already in there in the testimonial and or the feedback. And those are the kind of great pieces you want to pull out. Which leads perfectly into the next bullet point, which is think about the problems that you solve for people. And this is, we were working on this last week. It can be hard. Think about how you solve those problems, but you want to put yourselves in the shoes of your client. You want to experience sort of that relief moment, that moment of joy, that kind of thing. And again, write those down, because once you start writing, you'll be surprised about how much really starts to come out when you go, oh, yeah, I did do that thing. And oh, yeah, I did do this thing. And then what you want to do is sort of look at this page of goodies you have put together for your brainstorming, and then you go back to the brand story information that you wrote down. And you want to see how those two connect, because I guarantee they are going to connect. I mean, at the very least, you're going to see the way you have determined that you solve pain points should be aligning with, customer feedback or what you're seeing in patterns in your work. And if they don't align, that's obviously something, that's a creative problem to figure out. But go back to that brand story information and see how it comes together. And then what you do when you're looking through the brand story information you've put together, you want to sort of pull out the different aspects that illustrate how you solve problems. For instance, my little shoes example, for those who are new, my example company is a company called Little Shoes that allows toddlers to put shoes on without, they can do it themselves. It's fun, they're cute, they're adorable. And for parents, who've tried to dress a 2-year-old, you're no longer wasting 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes a day, wrangling a 2-year-old alligator into a pair of shoes. And there's lots of ways to illustrate that. So you sort of want to pick an aspect and think about the 2 or 3 or 4 different ways you can illustrate that to your audience. And then, of course, be writing your ideas down. I don't always have pen and paper on me, so I will use the notes function in my phone, because otherwise I know I'm going to forget it. That can be really helpful. I also have a notebook that when I'm at work, I keep that on hand so that I can get it down. I find that personally writing things down commits it better to memory. So again, part of brainstorming is sort of knowing your own process and how best it is for you to record the creative information that's coming to you. Okay. All right, so content calendars. There's a whole bunch of content calendars available online. Literally, if you just type in content calendar, you're going to get a slew of them from Google. So a content calendar is a written schedule of when and where you plan to publish upcoming content. Typically, what a content calendar contains is what your upcoming pieces of content are, the dates of posting and or publishing, images if you want to keep track of the images that you're posting, and the status on posting if you want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share one calendar that I have open. I may have to. Okay. Can you guys see? What are you guys looking at right now?
We can see the content calendar slide. Okay.
So I need to stop sharing and click into this new. So I'm a big fan of HubSpot. HubSpot is an incredible content generator. Just volumes and volumes and volumes of stuff. At least once a year, they come out with their updated version of a content calendar. And as you can see, this is pretty in-depth. I typically, when I do use their calendars, and I personally love a calendar view like this one. They have color coded here for the type of content that is posting on a particular day, so that when you're looking at it in a calendar view, you can pretty much get a bird's eye view really fast. Again, HubSpot is a huge producer of content. So they do all of this stuff that's here in this box on the top right. You don't have to be nearly this in depth. And I typically adjust or tweak these calendars to sort of fit what I need. So honestly, you could probably just pick, if you wanted to color code, you would put the social media platforms you have, email marketing, and website. That's more than enough. Obviously, if you offer classes or do anything else, certainly add those in. So this is really the bird's eye view. Keeps it pretty simple. But like I said, this is a full Excel sheet with multiple pages. So they do something called a content repository. So they have content type, the title, the link. I used to use the links. I mean, I do a lot of referring back to other pieces of information. So that's what I would do with the link. Obviously, with HubSpot creating so much stuff, they're creating individual links for every single thing that they make. So they're keeping track of their links. That probably isn't going to be necessary for you. However, if you're linking out to another blog, or anything else, it's not a bad idea to keep track of that. Interesting snippet. I mean, again, HubSpot is huge. That's not necessarily something you need to do unless you want to do. Image, you can just go ahead and upload images right into an Excel spreadsheet. Expiration, I've never used expiration. I suppose if you're running a campaign, that is some kind of a sale or a promotion, you could certainly use a tab like this or a column like this to keep track of that. These guys keep Twitter updates. Twitter's kind of just a disaster right now. And truthfully, I don't know, really big companies were advertising on Twitter. If you like Twitter and you feel like you want to be there, go ahead. Twitter is typically, you can have images if you want, but really the most characters you can have in a tweet are 280. And that includes everything. That's spaces, that's punctuation, that's all of it. So I just really think Twitter's a mess right now. I know I keep saying that because I think I'm so stunned at what a mess it's turned into. It's up to you if you want that. So there is a way to keep track of Twitter, as you can see here, character count, because that's really important with Twitter. Facebook updates, pretty much the same thing. Facebook for Business is an important platform, especially because Facebook owns Instagram. And when it comes to publishing, it can be a little bit easier. And then there's LinkedIn, and then Instagram, and so on. Because this is HubSpot, they've covered everything. They have Pinterest, all of it. So this is pretty granular. And, get as granular. Again, this is about how you best work. I can work just fine from a simple calendar set up like this, sort of filling in the days. Obviously, you want to add dates in here. They don't have dates in here because it's just a generic form. But that's something you want to think about. So my suggestion is you go onto Google and you just Google like content calendar. And like I said, it's going to bring up a lot. I would look at 3 to 5 of them and see what feels like it's going to work best for you. We all organizationally work a little differently. So see what works for you. Okay, I'm going to bounce to the next one. Any questions so far? Okay.
Well, Jodi, I'll just ask a question. If somebody's interested in HubSpot, do they provide tutorials on their website so people can learn how to use them more effectively?
I'm glad you asked. Not only they do that, but I'm going to share it now. One thing that I do like about HubSpot is, hang on one second. Okay, I have to share my screen first. There we go. So you're looking at that. Let me lower this. HubSpot actually, are you guys looking at, can you see social media content calendar user guide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So HubSpot, they're incredibly thorough. They have a whole ebook that they provide with the download. And of course they plug their certification courses. But here we go. Talks about what this particular calendar is meant for. Content repository, they get into this. Twitter updates, they basically have added in a bit of a like how-to guide for this entire one. I can't say that every single calendar is quite this detailed and comes with a guide, but how to hyperlink an image in Excel, I mean, that's nice. So, not all of them come with something like this. I mean, I would like to think that a lot of them at least have something of an explanation. But this is sort of the beauty of an entity like HubSpot. And of course, they have a bunch of resources and everything on there. You could probably even go over to YouTube if you wanted to, not specifically to HubSpot, but if you type in content calendar, you're going to come up with a whole bunch of different people that this is how they essentially make their living. They help people create these. I think the thing to really keep in mind is how in-depth do you want to go? And again, how do you think organizationally? Where do you need help? What kind of a view is best? Like, are you a more granular person? Are you better with just a general calendar? That kind of thing. So does that answer your questions to me?
Jodi, I have one more question as well, but it's not on this topic, so I don't want to get you off course.
Okay.
But thank you for sharing this. But it was regarding, I think it was slide 7.
Okay, let me go back up. Oops. The brainstorming.
Yeah, the brainstorming, and it was
Okay.
The fourth bullet from the bottom says think about problems you solve, and I absolutely understand what you're saying by that, but I wondered last week if some people got kind of held up on the word problem, and I'm wondering if there's another alternative word you can provide to maybe shift somebody's thinking about how they look at what they're offering and what they're doing for somebody other than the word problem. I can see problem being very fitting for some businesses, right? Like a plumber will probably say,
True.
Hey, you got a leak, right? But that
Right.
might not apply to maybe, I don't know, an artist or something that makes beautiful paintings or sculpture.
Right. Right. No, I think it's a point. I would go with think about the pain points you solve. Because ultimately that's what every business does in its own way. And I know that can seem strange for businesses that aren't as obvious as, say, like a plumber or an IT technician. I do find that my artist colleagues stumble over this because they sort of feel like what they offer is in solving a pain point, but it is. I mean, you really are. I think we were talking with Susan about this last week, and really how we determined at least a piece of what she offers, is that ability to allow those sort of technically inclined artists to, find a way to express themselves, find that outlet. And that's huge. I mean, to me, if, when we're not using our creative brains, we're not using all of us. You need, life is like a variety, right? I mean, if your life is just doing the same thing over and over again, it's just not such a great way to go. So I would, problems, I think pain points is a better word. Resolve issues is another way to think about it. I mean, you can also think about the way you open doors for people.
Thank you. Do you think another possible word would be, one might use as benefits? Like, how does my business benefit? Or is that not the place for this?
It's not how your business benefits, it's think about how your clients benefit from working with you.
Gotcha. Yeah,
What benefits are they gaining?
Great, thank you. I just wanted to catch that a little bit early so folks could adjust their thinking if they need to down the line.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a great question. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so let's talk about images. Obviously, we all know the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. To me, with digital marketing, images, I mean, they certainly can be worth 1,000 words, but what they really do is they enhance your content and they complement it at the same time. So ultimately, why good images are important is because they help illustrate your content and what you do. So where do we get good images? And this is where I've seen a lot of small business owners just say, well, I can just take pictures with my phone. And I have seen some amazing pictures. I have seen people who really do know how to use their phone well. Like, my daughter takes amazing pictures. I take absolutely horrible pictures. And so it's a mixed bag. I have seen clients who take pictures that they're good. They work, they can go on social media. With a little bit of, polishing, they can even go on websites. I have also seen some really not good pictures. And that's not doing you a favor, especially when it's your stuff. So if you are somebody who really, and I mean, and it certainly, you have to take a step back and be pretty objective and say, like, am I really good at, is this picture really representing what I want this product or service to look like? So one thing to consider as a professional photographer, if you're in a services-based business, meaning maybe you're a tutor, where you're working one-on-one with people, you don't necessarily need a professional photographer except to maybe take a headshot. And I do recommend that. If you're in any kind of a retail business, even if it's teaching classes, those kinds of things where you're producing something, if you genuinely don't have very good pictures for yourself, hire a professional photographer, put that into your budget. I know of a couple, I would say, it can fall anywhere between $400 and $800, but it's so worth it because you can use repurpose those pictures over and over and over again, and they're really going to represent you well. So number 2 is, as I already touched on, it can be yourself, but just really be objective about whether or not those pictures are genuinely representing you. And third, there are 3 websites that they have free downloads, and they're actually quite good. They fall into what is called lifestyle photography, which isn't exactly photojournalism, but it's not static stuff. you know, it doesn't look corporate. It's not just a very clean picture of a building. There's life to these pictures. So one of those sites is Unsplash. The second one, which is also here on the slide, is Pexel, P-E-X-E-L. And the third one is Pixel Bay, which can be a little, I get Pexel and Pixel mixed up all the time. Pixel Bay is P-I-X-E-L-B-A-Y. And, you know, when you go on these sites, you want to click on the free images, and there's a search bar, and you type in what you're looking for. I have found, I would say over 90% of the time, I find something really good. And not all of them are free, but a lot of them are free. And especially if you click on the free, then that's all you'll get. So it's worth going there and looking, and you want to look for the story in the image. And is it matching the content you want to put together? Okay.
Jodi, can I ask you a question as we're on that topic of pictures?
Sure. Yeah.
Great. So if somebody finds a picture that they want,
Mhm.
it's the proper, and it's not, maybe they find it on somebody's website or it's of an artist, I'm assuming that the proper protocol would be to reach out to them to request permission to use that photo.
It's actually built into the sites. I mean, it'll give you who the photo was taken by, and most of the time it says like, hey, you know, say thanks or something. So it's built into the site. A lot of times the images that are free are photographers who are looking to essentially build their business, which doesn't mean they're crappy photos. They're not at all. But it's there, like you don't, and you can even put into your copy wherever you use it, like photo courtesy of, and name the artist.
I'm sorry, I don't think I was clear in my question. If somebody finds an image that online is not associated with one of these, let's say they go to an artist website, they just can't copy and paste the image, right? Because I think it's free and available. You have to, the protocol is to contact the person to request permission.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I wasn't clear.
Yeah, no, it's an issue. So I would say make your best faith effort. If for some reason you can't reach that person, I would at least put in, like, acknowledge where it came from, you know, photo courtesy of blank website, so that there's something there acknowledging where it came from.
Thank you.
Okay, so where are you putting all this fabulous content? My biggest mantra with small business owners is there are 3 essential places. It's your website, your social media, and your email marketing. And it's really important to get these things lined up. You don't have to do it all at once. The priority is always your website. Second would be your social media. And when I say social media, I'm talking about organic social media. And absolutely be on Facebook and Instagram, because there's 2 sets of demographics there. Facebook is your 40 and overs. Instagram is like your 35 and unders. Depending on what you do, I mean, LinkedIn, you absolutely should have a profile on, you know, your own personal profile, because LinkedIn is really just the who's who in the business world. So if people are looking up who you are, your credentials, you do need a profile there. I think it depends on your business, how often you want to be posting there. And that's certainly something, you know, I'm happy to answer questions about. You know, if you're, let's say you're somebody who works for a company like New York Life, you want to be there pretty frequently. You want to be on there 2 or 3 times a week. because it's very institutional and business oriented. That doesn't mean there isn't a place for more creative people or artists. There is, and we can talk about that more toward the end. And then that last piece is your email marketing. I'm just gonna, sorry. So with your email marketing, what I think the first thing to know is that sending mass emails from like a Gmail or a Hotmail, that's not email marketing. And I don't mean to say that in sort of a downgraded way. That's your business email. That is for communicating with people directly. Email marketing is really, you want to find a platform. There's Constant Contact, there's MailChimp, there's CVOEO, there's a bunch of them out there. So again, you want to do some research. Each one will do the basic functions that you need. It's kind of how they do them that you want to be looking at that. I will be perfectly honest, I really dislike MailChimp. I was wrestling in it for 5 hours yesterday for a client. I find it really unintuitive, especially their basic, which is I think a free, is their free version. It's really limited and pretty chintzy. You know, and so again, I'm happy to answer some more questions about that, but why you need to be on an actual email marketing platform, there's a few reasons. One, it's a designed email. At this point, all of these platforms have set templates for you to use, unless you know you're somebody who can really go in and design your own, and that's great. But when you're on a platform that you like and that works well, it's pretty hard to make a bad looking email. So again, that's about your branding. It's about presenting professionally. Second, there are so many rules and guidelines for email these days. Like you can get into trouble pretty fast. If you keep sending, I mean, let's say you have a list of 50 people and you want to let them know about a class you're doing. If you do classes every 1 or 2 months and you keep doing that, pretty quickly Google is going to slap you down. They're going to flag the emails. The emails are going to go into people's junk folders, and they may even restrict your account. With an email platform, with an email marketing platform, they have built in mechanisms to ensure that, you know, first of all, you're not spamming, that people can unsubscribe and get off your list if they're not interested. They have all of the appropriate nomenclature at the bottom, copyrights, that kind of thing. So basically they're by the book automatically. And just in terms of management and design, you're going to be able to see, most of them have basic analytics so that you can see who's opening your emails, what they're doing with them. And that information is important. So, you know, to do it right, to do it properly, you need to be doing email marketing for your business, and you need to be doing it correctly, not from just your, you know, jodi@gmail.com kind of account. And lastly, at the bottom of the slide, you'll see where I wrote consistency is essential. Planning is what makes things consistent. You know, if you have a promotion coming up, or you just want to start getting out there, ultimately, you want your social media and your email marketing to back each other up. If you're advertising, not advertising, but you're talking about XYZ on your social media, you want your email marketing, at least in part, to mention XYZ and not just talk about ABC. And I can talk about that more toward the end, because I know that can be a little bit confusing. Okay, so how to get your content online, and really what I'm talking about here is social media. So how to get your social media content online. You absolutely want to use a scheduling platform. It's going to make your life so much easier, because part of planning is saying, okay, I'm going to, from 10 a.m. to noon on Thursday, I am going to write up my content for the month of March. And then once you do that, you can say, hey, okay, on Monday, I'm going to go in for an hour or so and I'm going to pull images so that on Tuesday for an hour, I can go in and schedule the rest of my month. And it's very much a set it or forget it when you use a scheduling platform. Canva is a great platform for a bunch of things. Not only is it sort of designing for dummies, it just has so many built-in tools. I mean, you can create not just images that fit on Instagram, because when I say that, Instagram is really fussy. When you're posting it, the specs have to be exactly what Instagram is looking for. I think it's like a 4:5 ratio. And if this all sounds like gibberish, don't worry, because you can click on a button in Canva that says that's literally Instagram post, and it's perfectly set up. Basically, all you have to do is go in, design, save it, and then you can upload it. And within Canva now is a scheduler, which is really nice. And I don't know if it's free. You can use Canva for free. I don't know if the scheduler comes with Canva, the free version, but Canva's only like $13 a month. And you get a whopping ton of stuff. I mean, you can design collateral in there. They have templates up the wazoo. It really is designing for dummies. Hootsuite, I used to use Hootsuite a lot because their free account used to allow people up to 3 social media connections, meaning like if you had Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, you could use free Hootsuite and schedule and publish to your heart's content. They obviously caught on that a lot of people were doing that. Now they've gotten really chintzy and you can only do 1 account, which kind of stinks. Hootsuite is quite intuitive. I believe it's one of the more expensive ones out there. It's not, I mean, it's not exorbitant, but it is worth looking around because it's at the top tier for cost. However, you can post virtually anywhere, and you can post video, animations, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can do the same with Canva, but Hootsuite, again, it's sort of like the original, the OG of publishing content. It's worth taking a look at just to sort of size it up. Facebook business, and I want to be very clear. If you have a personal Facebook page, there's no scheduler. Because it's a personal page. If you have a Facebook business page, which I highly encourage you to have, you then you can set up an Instagram business page. Again, there's a big difference between an Instagram personal page and an Instagram business page. But Facebook owns Instagram. And their scheduler, this is where the whole meta thing comes in. But essentially, it's part of their business solutions. So once you set up that business account, or if you already do, you can connect it to your existing Instagram business account. Or if you go in and connect an Instagram business account, or create an Instagram business account, that account will automatically ask you if you want to connect to your Facebook one. And it's worth it to do this because if you mostly are saying, hey, I just really want to live on Facebook and Instagram, it's a free scheduling platform. And once you connect the 2 of them together, you can essentially just knock out both platforms in terms of posting. You set aside a couple of hours, you get your posts up and scheduled, and you're good to go. Later.com It's also a good one. I believe there's a pretty robust free level there. Later was created because posting to Instagram, it's always been fussy, and at one point it was just really friggin' difficult. It's worth looking at because if you're thinking that you really want to focus on just Instagram, it was made to post on Instagram. So you can post stories, you can post all kinds of things from later.com. I don't know, and I know that you can post other platforms from Later. I haven't looked at it super recently, so I'm not sure how many. And same with Buffer. I know a number of graphic designers use Buffer. These are just 5 of a much larger group that's out there. So again, you want to do homework. You want to take a look at these. You want to ask around. I mean, if you have colleagues in business who, post pretty frequently and they do it well, ask them what platform they're using. Ask them how they feel about the platform they're using. If they're paying for a platform, ask them if they think it's worth it. It's not bad to pay for a platform if it's doing what you need it to do. So that is sort of the platforms in a nutshell. I know we can really go down a rabbit hole with these, and certainly feel free to post your questions because there's probably a lot of them on this. Okay. So, and this is, the last slide, so we can get into some questions after this. So this is my social media example for my fake company, Little Shoes. And as you can see, it's a nice steamy cup of coffee. I guess it could be tea, but I think it's probably coffee. And the caption says, "Thank you, Little Shoes, for making toddler shoes that allow me an extra 10 minutes for coffee in the morning." So again, if anybody has tried to put shoes on a toddler, that it's basically wrestling an alligator and an octopus all in the same person, little person, a person who weighs probably 30 pounds and can make it's just unbelievable what they can do. So really looking at this image, and the reason I created this example is this social post is demonstrating the benefit of this product, or at least one of the benefits of this product to a customer. Obviously what it's saying is this customer got 10 minutes to him or herself to just sit down and have a cup of coffee. And, it's not just parents who need that. I mean, this is obviously aimed at people, who are parents to young children, but when you can get that feeling of, ultimately that's what you're going for, right? I mean, we all have our businesses because we help people in very specific ways. And ultimately we want them to feel that sense of relief and that sense of betterment. So this example is really just about how to take your brand story and your brainstorming and have it come out to a post that emotionally resonates. And it doesn't have to be just a post. I mean, this could be just as easily on a website, in a paragraph. This could be an email. That's the way you want to think about your content. So I see there are questions. This is basically the end of my slides. Okay. So are there questions? Go ahead.
Jodi, I think Susan put in the chat box, so what is organic social media?
Okay. Good question. when I say organic, it's literally the stuff you're creating yourself. It's coming from you, because there's paid social, which are ads basically. And they've gotten sophisticated enough where they look like posts, because that's the point. They want to trick you into reading it. So when I say organic, it's non-paid social media. It's not an ad.
Other questions from people? Is it okay if they just shout them out to you, or do you prefer them in?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you put them in a comment box, sorry, chat box, or just ask.
So is anybody stuck on the idea of like, how do I get the brand story like into? Hi, Susan.
I always get a little unclear about these schedulers, planners. And are you saying that all the ones that you mentioned, including Excel, HubSpot, am I posting from there as well? There is just a plan, like a calendar to look at.
The planner is literally you planning. Like, think about it as a date book for your content.
Okay.
It's literally like going ahead and planning out what you are going to post, what you're going to create and post. Because I mean, that does a few things. One, it helps ensure that you're actually going to get content up and going, whether it's email, whether it's social media, whether it's a blog on your website. And the second thing is it helps you to sort of think organizationally. You know, let's say, Susan, you want to focus on a specific aspect of printing for the month of March. It helps you break that out into what you want to present each week. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And so now another question is, and I don't know if it's an easy question or not, but do you have a rule of thumb about how many posts a week?
No, that is a great question. There's a lot online about that. I mean, I think when it comes to small businesses, I'm going to say minimum, you should be there once a week. I'm really more of a 2 to 3 times a week girl, you know, which makes it, again, easier to plan. If you do 2 times a week, you can do Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can do Mondays and Fridays. Like, you want to get it into a rhythm and a cadence. If you go 3 times a week, you can do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you know, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So that it becomes automatic. It's almost like an appointment that you remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Jodi, on that topic, are there better days and times to post that might catch people at more effective times where they're likely to read it?
Yes. I mean, there are, but honestly, for small businesses, again, you know, if you're Nike, you're going to really drill down on like, oh, Tuesday at 9 is when we need to be posting this. To me, get it up by 7:30 in the morning. You know, and again, schedulers, you can pick a time. And that's just so you're getting into the flow of things. I mean, we know that people check social media and email pretty much like first thing in the morning until they're out the door or, you know, sitting at their computer. Then there's lunchtime and then there's the evening. So to me, if you're on there by, you know, a decent time in the morning, you're going to get into the flow at some point. So I don't feel that small businesses need to be, again, so granular, like, oh my God, I didn't post it this time, like nobody's going to see me. Like, that's not going to happen. It's really just about getting it, you know, getting it in there early enough in the day so that it filters up.
I don't want to dominate the time with my questions, but I do have at least one more. So, but if there are others, I want to encourage you to go. Okay, so In terms of like expectations that people might have, what are expectations they should set in terms of like responses? I mean, I can assume some people will think, wow, I'm going to get bombarded with sales or whatnot. So if they're doing this and they're not necessarily seeing much movement, is that an indication they're doing something wrong, or is that an indication that they just need to keep doing it?
You need to keep doing it. It takes a while to build an audience. Again, we are small businesses. Typically, it's one person doing this. So you're not going to dominate right out the gate. It's really about being present and being there. You will build an audience over time. You are getting into people's feeds because there's multiple mechanisms to do that, like that you may not always be cognizant of, like hashtags. Like you should add at least 1 or 2 hashtags to your copy because they're now searchable. I mean, they've been searchable for a while. Like don't get discouraged because, especially with social media, unless you are specifically like you have a landing page, like a link to a landing page, and you're looking to essentially sell something right off that, social media specifically isn't about conversion. It's about developing a relationship. So it could be a year before you see, conversion from somebody you see like your stuff every day. Email to me is a little bit different in the sense that, I mean, to me, email should be content driven, meaning not transactionally driven every single time. That doesn't mean you never run a promotion, especially if you're a brick and mortar with a retail. But again, you do not want to train your audience for the next sale, the next discount. You want to talk about your products. And if you want to see companies that do this really well, look at Patagonia, look at a company like Brilliant Earth. Having a call to action, meaning those little buttons that are on an email that says learn more, is just as effective as buy now. I mean, that's part of the planning, like, especially, with a channel like email, like, what do you want? Like, what's your goal here? If it's content, it's about information. It's about getting people to learn more. It's about getting them to engage, open up the email and engage. If you have, if you're promoting a class and it's 20% off, obviously the conversion is straight up purchases, which again, you will see if you're on an actual email marketing platform. So hopefully does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I had a question.
Hello.
Hi. I see people putting stories about their personal life, like children, grandchildren on Instagram, Facebook, and I like it. And when I read it, is that a good idea?
I mean, if it's part of your branding, I think that's fine. I would just be careful. Literally, this is the mom in me. You don't want to name so many specifics that like a total like creepazoid could find you and your children or grandchildren. But if you're running a family business, you absolutely want your family there. People want to see that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Or if it's just a big part of why you do what you do.
Yeah. Like when like this person writes these, I feel closer, like I feel like I know him better and I like it. I connect better. But it wasn't, but it's not part of their business. They're just saying these things. And I wasn't sure if I should do that.
I think if you do it as comfortable as you feel. I mean, you have to have your own personal comfort level to it. The marketer in me would just want you to connect that to something, like if you're going to talk about, I mean, to me, family is a lot of why we do what we do. Like I went freelance for my daughter's high school years because they were her last 4 years. They're pretty important years. and they're really dicey years. And I wanted to continue to be a plugged in parent. So being freelance allowed me to do that.
Mhm.
You know, so there's no problem talking about that. And again, like you said, it can connect you to the right people.
Mhm. And also, like, my other question was, like, I saw a farmer's market, and sometimes I take pictures and other people are in background, and I don't have I don't even know who they are to get their permission to see if I can post that picture. Is that a problem? Like,
No, I believe that falls under public domain.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good questions. Other questions from people or aspects that are still unclear that they would like clarified? I will assume not.
Did I stun everybody again? I apologize.
I don't think that's the case.
I have one more question. You mentioned to post at least once a week. What about if you have nothing to say? Or
There's always something to say. What's going on? You know, what's happening in your week? What are you seeing?
Mm-hmm. But it should be business related, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you mind if I ask you what your business is?
Oh, sell flowers and plants, and sometimes there's not much going on, and I don't want to be like bombarding people with. I mean, I'm sure I can find something, but I wasn't sure what I should put in, that it's not a repetition of the previous post.
I would create something called Flower Friday and just talk about what, you know, like what a featured flower is. Like, I love flowers, but you know, beyond roses and like daisies, I couldn't tell you what most of them are. You know, talk about them, pick a flower once a week, and you know, get a great image of it. Talk about what it is, give the Latin name, if there's any medicinal purpose, what it smells like, where it grows. You know, if they're a hardy flower, you know, like some flowers you can stick in a vase for a week and they look great. Other ones fall apart in 24 hours, you know. Yeah, they're flowers. They're beautiful. There's plenty to talk about.
Okay, thanks.
Especially because we're going to get like a foot of snow on Saturday and like we've all had enough.
Great.
Jodi, tell me if I'm off base on this, but to Farnaz's question, you know, I can imagine, obviously, this is a very kind of, no one's thinking necessarily about flowers at this moment with this snow, but I mean, that may be the point, right? So
that is the point. If you stay
right.
present and you're like staying present and saying like, hey, look at this gorgeous flower, like here's a nice big bright color, like, yeah, that's the whole point.
And I think I can imagine a post could be something to the effect of like you planted all your seedlings, right, to get going, and you like take a picture and you kind of post that and you say, so excited about the upcoming season. This is so hopeful, or something to that effect, and gets people in the same mindset. Yeah,
I mean, people are already talking about the spring equinox. It's like 3 weeks away. You know, and again, we seem to be getting all of the snow for the season right now. There's a reason people are talking about the spring equinox. It's because it's hopeful and everybody's wishing to like fast forward and like get to spring. So to me, you have a huge opportunity, but you know, there's a whole, flowers have seasons, you know. Winter has some really incredibly beautiful flowers, and you get that special winter white, and winter weddings are becoming a big thing up here, mostly because it's like 2 years to try to get a wedding, you know, booked anywhere up here now because we're such a wedding destination. Yeah, there's just a world of things that you can do. I mean, you are an expert, Farnaz, in something that not everybody is. And, you know, there's a whole emotional aspect to buying flowers. Like, I used to buy flowers once a week at Trader Joe's, literally because it just was something really nice to look at, especially at this time of year, you know, and I'm sure there's some psychology that you could tap into, you know.
And I'll just say too, Farnaz, with I think the flower show's this weekend, so that's a great
Oh,
thing
right.
to do, right? So I'll see everybody at the flower show.
Yep. Oh, you should be marketing the hell out of that. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I think you have answered the questions, Jodi, and I so appreciate your time and expertise and your willingness to share. And that applies to this class and the previous ones you've done for us as well. So I want to thank you very, very much for, again, for sharing today. I know from the feedback I've gotten during the week that it was very, very meaningful for people. So also want to thank people for attending last week and in today's
Yes,
class.
thank you.
And so if folks have questions, Jodi, after this class, or is it possible to connect with you, or should they go through
Yeah.
me? Okay.
And yeah, no, I mean, I'll type my email in.
And while Jodi's doing that, I'll just remind folks that Sophia is going to be sending out an email with today's recording and the class slides, so you can have know who to contact to follow up regarding micro business services if you're interested in that, and of course the other business development services. Just want you to be able to get help that you know will benefit you. So whether that's us or another program, it all works for me. And also want to mention that in that email that Sophia is going to send out will be a link to the other classes we're offering that's coming up, as well as you can find recordings to past classes too. So thank you again, everyone, for showing up. Appreciate your time.